So ladies, gentlemen, it's time to move on, and I hope that you will join me in greeting Professor Qingwen Dong.
So it's a great honor to be here and to working with our teacher workshop here and to talk about China. And China is a large in economy, and China is important in the world politics, and China is critical in international collaboration, international communication, and international transportation. China's 38 years of economic reform has changed China from this developing country into a second economic power in the world. Looking back at the economic development, we can say that China's technology and communication innovations play a critical role in changing China and shaping China now. So after we listen to Director Duby's presentation, we can clearly see that China has a lot of changes in the past years. But I will say that, so all these changes can be kind of contribute to this China's technology and communication innovations. I have to say that China has jumped several stages in communication technology development. Many Chinese who never use landline telephones suddenly start using cell phone directly. Many Chinese never use VCD and suddenly start using DVD directly. Many Chinese never use computer and to search online, but suddenly use the mobile smartphone and search online directly. Many Chinese never use computer to send email messages, but suddenly start using WeChat to send messages directly. So these are the kind of the things and make China is unique. And that lead into my today's topic and communication technology. I'd like to focus specifically on this WeChat development, which is a communication mobile application device. I know some of the teachers here and to listen to this presentation, similar presentation on that, the WeChat, but today I'd like to focus on more on the WeChat effects on the Chinese people. So I think that's a little bit different from the previous presentation last year. So before we talk about that, I'd like to show you a video and made by the two New York Times reporter about the WeChat. And I hope this can give us some idea and background before we kind of talk about this effects on WeChat.
Sitting in the United States or Europe right now, you've probably never used a Chinese app. But the reality is, if you want to know how the internet will develop, China, the land once known for its cheap ripoffs, has actually become a guide to the future. You know, the internet is the internet. But for China, the internet is more like an intranet. It's largely walled off from the Western world by this incredibly complex system of filters and blocks that we call the Great Firewall. And basically, the Great Firewall blocks any foreign site the Communist Party doesn't think it can control. So that means there is no Facebook, no Twitter, no Google. Instead, what filled the internet vacuum was a generation of Chinese copycats that have grown into huge companies. So for Google, you had Baidu. For YouTube, you had Youku. For Twitter, you had Sina Weibo, and the list goes on and on. It's almost as if the Chinese internet is a lagoon as an aside to the greater ocean of the internet. And in that lagoon, there are these swamp monster apps that bear some resemblance to the creatures in the ocean, but are mutated in some ways because they evolved in a different kind of environment. But things have started to shift in the sense that before, no one outside of the lagoon really cared about the swamp monsters. But now all of a sudden, some of the features they've developed are so amazing that Western apps are trying to copy them. And the greatest example of this is WeChat. WeChat is an example of, for lack of a better word, a super app. It's a Swiss Army knife that basically does everything for you. It's your WhatsApp, Facebook, Skype, and Uber. It's your Amazon, Instagram, Venmo, and Tinder. But it's other things we don't even have apps for. There are hospitals that have built out whole appointment booking systems. There are investment services. There are even heat maps that show how crowded a place is, be it your favorite shopping mall or a popular tourist site. The list of services goes on basically forever. But it's not the variety of things you can do on WeChat that makes it so powerful. It's the fact that they're all in one app. So why does that matter? Hypothetically, imagine you're sitting at home and one day you notice your corgi is dirty. You open WeChat, hit a few buttons, and a few hours later a man shows up at your door with some shampoo and a big vacuum. Your dog gets cleaned and he looks great. You take a photo, you share it with your friends, and tag the dog cleaning business. You haven't left the app. Your friend who likes Hello Kitty and works a boring office job is slacking off at work and looking at WeChat. She sees the photo of your clean corgi. She decides she wants her poodle cleaned. She clicks the tag on your photo and orders the same service. Within seconds, the man with the big vacuum is on his way to her house. She pays him, and he's happy because he got paid instantly on WeChat. She starts chatting with you to thank you. Neither of you have left the app. While chatting, she tells you about a new hip noodle joint. She says, you have to come. It's a schlep, but you accept. She orders food while still at her desk. You order a taxi. She pays for the food. On the way to her house, the man with the big vacuum invests the money he earned from both of you into a wealth management product that's probably a little too risky. Neither of you nor the man with the big vacuum have left the app. Both of you arrive and the app tells the kitchen you're there. Your WeChat profile photo pops up on the wall. It's an old photo from the year you had that weird part in your hair. Of course she makes a comment. Your food is served. You notice your meat is a bit overcooked, so you snap a photo and post a disparaging restaurant review. You're already on your phone and you remember you still owe your friend money because she paid. You transfer her money. Neither of you, the man with the big vacuum, nor the restaurant have left the app. At the restaurant, there are no menus, there are no waiters, there is no cashier. There is only WeChat. By rolling so many functions into one single app, it's altered the concept of virality. It's no longer just videos or images or tweets that can go viral. It's a dog washer, noodles, all sorts of companies and products that get the push of a social network. Here in China, that network is 700 million people. Sounds great, right? Well, it is, but using a single app to find a date, schedule an oil change, or notarize a document also enables WeChat to collect a staggering volume of personal data. They know what you talk about, who you talk about it with, what you read, where you go, why you're going there, who's there, how you spend money when you're online, how you spend money when you're offline. The list goes on indefinitely. For advertisers, this is a miracle. It's the combined data of Facebook, Amazon, Google, and PayPal, all in one place. The problem is, all of the data is information Chinese companies are forced to share with the Chinese government, which has a long record of human rights violations and isn't exactly shy about stalking its citizens. So if you're not in China, why does this matter? It matters because we're starting to see a number of Western tech companies attempt to replicate super apps like WeChat. For the companies, it's incredibly powerful. And for you and me, it's a convenient and even transformative technology. But of course, it could also be problematic. Concentrating so much data in so few hands could lay the groundwork for an Orwellian world where companies and governments can track every single movement you make.
So that is the WeChat. So the WeChat is really the WeChat has a really short history. It started in 2011. So if you think about that, it's only 6 years. And the first they have this the name called Weixin, and then the following year is have the new the English name called WeChat, and it's showing that the global ambition. And there's 5 stages of this WeChat development. As you can see, that is the first is the number 1 is instant messaging, and then the second stage is audio chatting, and the third is the shaking and the looking friends, and the fourth one, which the two sub-stage, set up a friend circle, and the overseas edition, and also the video chat. And the fifth stage is playing game and also the using WeChat to make a payment. Many people go to China, you may see that is, so you go to restaurants, so you eat. After eating, and you do not use your credit card or give the cash, you use a WeChat to make the payment. That is really the WeChat is so powerful and so dynamic. So I'd like to introduce to use a study, the survey, to illustrate this the impact of social media on the Chinese people, and particularly this WeChat effect. So this is a survey was conducted by the Counter, and is the large marketing communication group, and it was conducted earlier this year of this 2,010 people. And as you can see, that is in the age group, it still have a large penetration, and the growth is still pretty tremendous. If you look at this 40 and to 49 years old group, and the 12% increase. Look at this 50 to 59 years old, and 28 kind of the increase in terms of the social media usage, and above 60 years old, and there's a 38 increase. So this is a kind of pretty similar to the U.S. population in terms of social media usage. Look at this, the social media positive effects, and two major positive effects is, number one is social interaction between the people who know each other. So that is really the major benefits. If you look at that, it's 70% of people admit that. And then in terms of the second social media benefits is positive effects is to increase the knowledge and to increase information. One of the things is that the women tend to benefit more compared with men. So if you look at the two bars on the first one is 56 versus 48, which is helping people make kind of purchasing decision, which is the women tend to have a kind of 8% more than males. Women tend to than male. And in terms of the reduced life pressure, and you can see that is women tend to have 49%, and men is 42%. There's a 7% difference. In terms of increased confidence in social interaction, and the women tend to have 42%, and men have 35%. So clearly, you see large differences. So in a way, that the social media help the Chinese women to a greater degree. In terms of the young people versus older people, so young people depend on social media for relaxation, and so contrast to the middle-aged people tend to depend on social media for communicating with the friends. And so you can see that the yellow bars and those people who were born in the after 1980s, and then they tend to use the social media to reduce the pressure from the life, while the older people who are born before 1980s, and in particular using social media to communicating with other people, and particular family members. Social media not only bring the benefits and positive effects, and also have some kind of negative effects. For example, so the research, the survey shows the three major negative effects. So number one is reducing the reading time. So nowadays we are getting into the media age, so we try to kind of searching more, but we do not read that more. So that is reducing the reading time. Secondly is challenging the privacy protection. So that is another kind of issue. The third one is the damaging to our health, particularly the eyesight reduction, and also the our losing our sleep time, and also the kind of the attention distraction, and that is another kind of the negative effects. So this particular chart, you can see that the horizontal line is the usage of the social media. The vertical line is the reading. So if you look at this, the WeChat is on the far top right. So that is the WeChat. But if you look at the lowest one, which is the meeting friends, so that is the lowest one. The Weibo, or is a microblogging, which is the middle, that shows that is the social media really, particularly WeChat, is a really prominent and dominant in social media usage in China, among the Chinese people. Another study was conducted by the China Internet Network Information Center and is serving a sample of 3,000 people. It shows that the interact with friends is the first purpose, which is 80% of people believe that. Seeking news information is ranking 50%, which is the second. And the third and the fourth, and which is the sharing useful information with others, gaining information for life and work, which is roughly about 50%. And entertaining is 46%. And go to know more friends is 41%. And so as you can see, that is comments on news events is 35%, and the feeling belonged is 29%, which is kind of showing that what are the purposes for using WeChat. In terms of frequency of using WeChat, people say that they use a lot of times daily, which is 53%, which is quite tremendous. If you look at 10 times a day, 87% is getting to the 90% bar. And 4 to 6 times a week, 91, and WeChat 2 to 3 days a week, which is 97%, which is really kind of showing that is how much people depend on using WeChat. And when I talk to some of my visiting Chinese students, they talk about they use WeChat 2 hours a day at least. So that means some people can really use a WeChat for a lot of time. And so this is a show that in terms of survey, WeChat more than 60 minutes a day and 60%, and use WeChat 30 minutes a day and it's 75%. It's really kind of the social media dependency is pretty heavily among the Chinese people. I want to just add to our previous presentation. I believe that is the Chinese kind of economic development is really take advantage of this internet utilization, because that's really helped Chinese to move fairly quickly and to catch on this particular new technology. Let's talk about some kind of impact. And what I will say that is the Chinese communication technology really changed Chinese individual at the individual level. Number one, I will say that is a communication tool. It's very effective. And so the reason I say that because when we say communication tool, I can use one of the group of Chinese students recently came to Pacific and conduct a workshop and as an example. So first of all, before they came, so we have this, we use WeChat set up a working group. So we use WeChat to share some of the research proposal. So what is the research question? What is your research idea? So that is kind of the starting point. Then while they are kind of doing this, prepare the trip, so they use the WeChat to look for ideas, where to go, and what kind of things they order, things like that. During the trip, they use WeChat to look for the things like who is the driver, who is which place to visit. And when we finish the workshop, so we use WeChat to reflect on what is the workshop, the ideas, what can we do to improve that. So basically the WeChat really kind of started from the beginning and to the end. It's really become a very powerful communication tool. Secondly, I will say that WeChat has become a socialization agent. So when I say that a socialization agent, we mean that it's really kind of change our values, shape our ideas, and develop our behaviors. So every time you see a group of Chinese meet, and first thing first, they will say that, can we set up a WeChat group? So when they say that WeChat group, they want to connect all these people together into a working group. So the group, I will say that, and help the Chinese people share a common ideas, and help the Chinese share some common values, help Chinese people share some common goals, and help the Chinese people share some intent behaviors. Let me use this. This is my WeChat kind of pictures. I want to use that for illustration. So number one is a Jinchi Cat WeChat group. So all these groups, so you can see that it's 100 some people. So actually, this is a level 2. We have another one which is 300 some people. So in this group of people, people share some kind of the interest interest in cats. In terms of cat, it's a lovely, the uniqueness, the characters, and so on and so forth. So all these kind of people, 100 people, just every day talk about the uniqueness of cat. So that is a shared interest. Second is the news sharing group. And that is also my own WeChat group. You can look at the top, which is a 475 people. Who are in those group? The deans, the department chairs in the news, in the College of the Mass Communication, Department of Journalism in China, and also some professional and editors, reporters, and the Qingwen News, China Daily. So all these people in this particular news group. So every day they talk about what is the big news in China. So they share the news, they share some of the common interest. The third group, which is what I talk about, the Zhejiang the university, the students come to the Pacific to do this workshop. So before they came, we set up this workshop, this WeChat group, then during and after. So this is kind of showing that how this group can be used pretty effectively. The last one is the kind of intended behavior group, which is a group I work with to write a textbook on this new media education in the United States. So this group of people, every day we talk about some kind of writing ideas, who is writing which chapter, and so on and so forth. So these 4 kind of working groups so illustrate that is how the Chinese people use the WeChat in multiple directions. Information seeking. So using WeChat is seeking information and where to live and where to go, where to eat, who you are going to talk to date, and to go to play. So all these is information seeking. Next one is entertainment. They talk about this WeChat is half of the content is about games. It's playing games. So looking at this WeChat development, so the playing game is the last stage, is the 5th stage. So a lot of the money is making doing that. Smartphone and WeChat is really become one of the popular ways for entertainment because it's convenience, necessity, and accessibility and flexibility. So it's so easy to do. Why not to use that for that entertainment purpose? Self-enhancement, as you know, that is social media becomes such a self-media. People want to focus on themselves and they want to talk about themselves. So you use the social media to broadcast and to increase their own image. So self-centered social media offer people a new platform for people to kind of tell the world what is the best self-image and what is the self-identity and what is the impressive self-esteem. So let's move to the impact of the social media, particularly the WeChat on the society in general. So number one is I like to talk about is social changes. So like Director Duby talked about is connected, and really the WeChat connect Chinese people, to a great extent. And so if you look at the impacts on social changes, it's highly frequent social interaction. More people are connected through this mobile device, and people tend to be socialized by opinion leader. So on and on. So clearly, the WeChat and the social media has a huge impact on the society in general. Secondly, economic changes. And as a report of The Economist said that among all the services, WeChat is perhaps a promise of a cashless economy, a recurring dream of internet age, and it impresses onlookers the most. The Chinese consumers use WeChat and pay diverse services without using cash, the credit cards and the checks, and so really make it really powerful. Look at this number. So WeChat earned about $1.8 billion, and last year, so WeChat now is worth $80 billion now. 3 years ago, And very few people bought things by using WeChat. Now it's almost 1/3 of people using WeChat and to purchase the things. So it's really kind of a powerful tool now. Education changes. And just a month ago, and so if you look at this photo, I kind of paste there, is 492 people. Can you make a guess of who are these people? So these are the 500 incoming college kids. It's high school kids, and they want to study in America. So they want to learn what is the education goals, missions, kind of what is the uniqueness for University of the Pacific. So I give a lecture through this WeChat to the 500 people across China. So they just use WeChat, and then I talk here and in Stockton, California. So like that. So we talk about what is the challenges, what's the opportunities. So WeChat can be used tremendously for education changes. I'm sure there's many other things like the lectures and other dimension, but clearly, and so this WeChat forum is fairly new. Political changes, and I'm sure that is you may know that China is still one party kind of the system. There's all kinds of the challenges, all kinds of issues facing on. But that's a good thing that the social media really help China to make some changes. It's like what I put here, and WeChat help and catch some corrupt officials, party officials, and if people are talking, and nowadays everyone knows, and so WeChat does play a critical role in those regards. I'm sure that there's so many kind of issues left, and but we'll wait and see. And I know my time is kind of limited, and like to move into a case study. This case study is a research we and my graduate student did a couple of years ago about how this Chinese social media usage on the impact of the students' social activism and participations, or participant in social activism. It's 309 people, and a college student in China, and try to see that what are the factors motivate people to get involved in social activism. So that is kind of the research kind of focus. Social media and the social activism. As you may know, that activism is by definition is the process by which the groups of people exert pressure on organization and other institutions to change policies, practices, and conditions and activities find problematic. So in order to fit into Chinese context, you know that it's nowadays in order to collect data, you have to pass this human subject review board. And so the board says that you cannot study this kind of activism in China because some people can get kind of arrested. So in order to make this happen, so we turn that from activism into social activism, because we want to make sure that it's kind of protect the Chinese students, but in the same time, we can really kind of focus on this activism ideas. So that is kind of that's why we call that social activism. So in this social activism, we are referring to that is the issues specific is nonpartisan advocacy. So that is kind of our focus. In Chinese style activism, mainly focus on the improving society and making a better place in which human rights are respected and protected. So we are using this term of social activism and to refer to having an issue-specific attitude and actively participated in the popular social issues. So that is kind of our focus. So there's 3 research questions in our study. So one is which motivation of using social media affect the Chinese college students' social activism. When we say that, we refer to what is the socialization, entertainment, self-status seeking, information seeking. So what are those motivations really motivate people to use the social media? Second one, how does gender affect Chinese college students' social activism? Third one is how does the frequency of using social media and definitely include WeChat usage affect Chinese college students' social activism. And we have this methodology, and we select 300 people, and so we have three part of questionnaire. One is the activism, and like the measure, like donate money to a social activist group, and try to change others' minds about the social issue, participate in the discussion groups designed to discuss a particular social issue. So that is kind of social activism so we are talking about. Then we have the 20 motivational statements like get peer support from other people, entertaining, and so like kill time, self-status seeking, make me feel good, look good, and also the information seeking, get academic information. Finally, it's the frequency of using social media and other demographic variables like gender, ethnicity, and so on and so forth. Here's the results. We kind of get into more kind of the critical part here. So the first one is which motivation of using social media affect Chinese college students' social activism. So we talk about those 4 types of motivations, like socialization, entertainment. So the results show that the Chinese college students who use social media for information seeking and self-status seeking tend to participate in social activism. Let me pause for a second. So what does that mean? It means that those people who are using social media for socialization and entertainment will not participate in the social activism. So that is number one. Number two, how does this gender affect this college students' social activism? Results show that the gender does have some impact on students' social activism. And with the females tend to do more than males, meaning that female students tend to participate more in social activism activities. Number three, how does the frequency of social media use affect Chinese college students' social activism? And results show that the frequency of social media use does lead to social activism. So meaning that the more you use kind of social media, the more likely you will participate in this social activism. So discussion. So clearly the results show that the Chinese college students who use social media for information seeking and self-status seeking are likely to get involved in the individual social activism. However, if they do depend on the social media for socializing and entertainment, and they do not likely to get involved in the social activism. I'd like to have some takeaways, and here is my last slide. I know time is getting up here. So number one, I will say that the China's technology and communication innovation really kind of helped China get into the leading position. WeChat is an example. Particularly the New York Times, the videos that illustrate that, and that was done in the last August. I believe that is after this year, talking about this build the railway kind of speed, and I can see that is quite amazing. So number two, China's communication technology play a key role in helping Chinese economy as well as shaping world economic activities. Because the Chinese people travel quite a bit. I mean, you cannot imagine. So years ago, we only have this 2 direct flight by United Airlines from Beijing and China. Now you can direct flight from Chengdu, where the pandas lives, and then you can direct flight from Hangzhou, which talk about this. The next 1 hour from the Shanghai direct flight. I mean, this is really changing quite a bit of the world economy. Number three, social media like WeChat continue playing a critical role in socializing Chinese people, as well as cultivating changes in the Chinese society. So this is really cannot be ignored because this is very powerful. Imagine those kind of interest groups. When I send some kind of message through my group, another person will also have so many groups. So group by group, so I can use that as a grouping kind of communication, reaching all other people. And that's really the powerful thing. Last one, those social media have several negative effects like retention level, our memory, and privacy and health situation. But I think, I believe that they are critical to economic and social and political development in China. Thank you so much.